Hi everyone, welcome to On the Other Hand. I'm Ariane Zurcher, and today I'm going to be talking about stitching with or without a hoop. This is a question that I often get. People say, do you stitch with a hoop? And my answer is no, I don't. Until yesterday. So I'm going to talk about why I changed my tune and the results of that little experiment. I'm going to turn you around and let's start stitching. People ask me from time to time whether I use a hoop. When I was a child, my mother taught me to embroider with a hoop, and we were using, crewel thread and all of that kind of thing, and it was very traditional. But for this sort of thing, I typically don't use a hoop. But the other day, I decided that I was going to do a whole bunch of these Buoyant tendrils. If you don't know how to do a Buoyant tendril, I'm going to post the video that I made in the upper right corner here so that you can see. Anything that's over, 30 wraps, I think of as a Buoyant tendril. And the thing about a Buoyant tendril is one of the most challenging things that I've come across with the Buoyant tendril is the tension in the back. It pulls, and it's really easy to pull the fabric. So I thought, I'm going to try to do it with a hoop. And this is what I got. And I have to tell you, I will be doing Buoyant tendrils in the future with a hoop every single time, because to not have to worry about this whole thing puckering was such a blessing. And so it absolutely was a great way to use a hoop. If I'm just stitching in here and doing this sort of thing, I'm not going to use a hoop because it's just something that's getting in the way, and I can push the fabric all up and get in there. However, this kind of stitching where I'm doing this kind of straight stitch that gets quite long in places. So let's just show you. I mean, this is just over a centimeter in length. It's like between 1 and 1.5 centimeters. It's just over a half an inch. It's just enough that it's pulling. And so for this, I think I would use a hoop, because why not? Again, if I'm often I'm doing things like this, well, a hoop is going to become an annoyance and get in the way, and also will cause problems for me as I continue to couch, as well as when I'm working on large sections of bark and things like that. I know they have table hoops and all of that, but that's a huge whole thing. And this piece is massive. I mean, it's way bigger than any table hoop I've seen. I mean, maybe they exist, but you'd have to literally, it would take up, my whole studio here. So that's not going to work for me. The other place that the hoop really came in handy was doing this kind of work where I'm just sort of playing with thread, and I'm kind of stitching and pulling and couching, and then I'm doing little cast-ons, and then I'm doing little French knots, and all of this was made so much easier. And look how it just lays on the fabric. There's no pulling going on at all, and this was all done with a hoop. So I definitely think that there are situations, a lot of situations actually, probably much more than I've been giving it credit for, where a hoop is absolutely the thing to use. I don't know about cut work, things like this. Maybe a hoop is a good way to go. I'm going to try it. I did this cut work without. I did this cut work here without, but maybe I'll go ahead and sort of experiment with cut work with a hoop and see how that works. So now I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'll do a couple of more Buoyant tendrils coming down here, So I'm going to put my hoop on, and now the big thing about the hoop is that if you've got a lot of big heavy stitching or lots of stuff going on, it can just be a little harder to get the tension. But it's not a big deal, and it's not going to hurt your stitches. I'm putting it right over those bullion tendrils right there, and it'll be just fine. This is a plastic. I mean, this isn't, this isn't even bamboo. This is just a plastic. I don't even know where I got it, but I have some others that I've just bought on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. And for those of you who are very versed in hoops, feel free to weigh in. Tell me, what do you use? What do you like? Do you have lots of different sizes? I'm new to this. As I said, I really haven't spent much time using a hoop, so I think I'm going to do it with this. This is Steph Francis thick mercerized cotton. I'm just going to do a couple of tendrils coming down here, maybe coming up here. And then I think I don't know. It's improv. I'm going to work from there. I do have this thick mercerized cotton color on my needle, so I'm going to go ahead and, because I hate to throw this out. So what I do is I just do some French knots. It's easy. And now for something like this, I find the hoop a little bit cumbersome to cope with. I guess you'd probably get used to it, but I can see that this might be problematic, especially if it was a larger hoop. I'm just doing a few here. I'm just trying to get, use up this bit of thread. So I do anywhere from 2 wraps I can go up to 6 wraps on these French knots. It just all depends on how big do you want that? How big do you want that French knot? And sometimes it's fun to throw in a colonial knot. It's really more out of boredom, than anything. Sorry about the camera work there. I knocked it. So, a colonial knot where you scoop it, and then you can twist it a bunch of times too. You don't have to just do once around the needle for the colonial knot. You can actually, and of course, I'm using the wrong needle. I'm using a chenille, but that's okay. And I'm gonna do one here. And then I'm gonna do one more beyond this. And I'll tell you, this is like a little OCD thing of mine. I cannot let just an even number go. I have to have it be an odd number. It is ridiculous. I mean, like, really, who's counting? I am. I'm counting. I'm counting. So here we go with that. And that's it. So I've used up this bit of thread. I'm going to tie my little, I'm going to just scooch this guy in here like this. And here like that. And now I'm going to find a Milner's needle for this one, right? For this one. My number 17, Steph Francis. Okay, you know how that rule that they have where they tell you, people who embroider a lot will say, just cut 18 inches off, no more than 18 inches. Well, with a Buoyant tendril, if you cut 18 inches, you may not even have enough. I mean, you'll have enough to maybe do one tendril. So you're going to be constantly threading needle. So I don't. I actually, this is about, I've cut off a good 1.5 yards. And the reason is because I don't want to have to end my thread, run out with just, a little length. Even if I have a foot left, that's almost always not enough for a long Buoyant tendril. So here we go. And I'm going to make this one, fairly long. It's a tendril. Now I have to scoot this up. I'm going to go around. That's, I think, 26. Now here's the deal. You need this to be scooched down and to fill this area plus more. So this is about 30. So if I do 50, that's going to give me a little nice sort of thing. So 31. Oops. And sometimes okay, and I need my pliers. Sometimes if I don't have enough space on my needle, I start pulling it, even to the point where it comes right out from here. Like a regular bullion, you'd have the end of the needle sticking out here and you'd wrap. Well, I pull it out so that I've got enough needle to wrap. But this is so much easier with a hoop. So I have this nice long thing. I could have done it about 10 shorter. Another thing I wanted to mention was you don't want to go back into the same hole that you went in, because that's going to you may risk pulling some of these wraps down into the back. I take it over a stitch, a thread length, a thread or two over. Okay, so now the way I get this kind of twisty effect, like over here, this kind of ropey look, is I come up on this side to the left of my knot, and now I'm going to cross it over and I'm going to go over here, right? And I'm going to keep going. And this one I'm going to do I'll do about 50. So that's about right. I think that's about 50. I don't know, I sort of lose count sometimes when I'm talking. The other thing you have to remember is you have to have this thread pulled enough so that you're not caught with a double thread in there and then you can't pull it out. So again, instead of going right back into that same hole, I'm going to go over a couple of threads in the fabric. And I'm going to pull that through. And I'm going to do the same now. I'm going to come up just up here. Right? And then I'm going to come down over here. And I'm going to start. That's 38. Okay, that's 50. I'm going to pull this thread so that I have plenty. I just want to remind you that I pulled about a yard and a half of thread, and I've done 3, and I probably will get 1, maybe 2 if I'm lucky. Now I can start to sort of come down a little, letting the bunch travel. Okay, that's another 50, and I do not have enough to do a long one. I do have enough to do a shorter one, which I can do. So I'll go ahead and anchor that. And I'm going to do a little one right here. Okay, so that's 30. That's as good as it's going to get. And that's what I get. I get this kind of wrapped, and I can keep doing it. And each one coming down a little bit, coming down a little, and it just kind of gives it this kind of ropey. Now this one I did much more random, and that's another way to do it, is just to kind of do it randomly, and you get this kind of more wild look. But if you want something that sort of obviously twists, that's how you can get that. So I hope this was fun and helpful and fun to see. And if you haven't tried a hoop, you can invest in a cheap one and see what you think. This one is about, let's see, how big is this hoop? I think it's like 5 inches. It's not a big one. It's, yeah, so it's a 5 inches, across. And it's plastic. Like I said, I'll put the link in the down below in the description section. But there you go. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, let's keep stitching together.